Hello and welcome from Barcelona to coverage of an Armory event that took place on August 7th. My name is Max, also known as MJet on Discord, and we're coming at you in this first round with Dorinthea versus Bravo. So this is like a very classic matchup, if you will. Both of these heroes have been around since the beginning of the game. They're both very strong. However, Dorinthea is probably more commonly known as a strong hero in Blitz. Bravo shines more in Constructed, but he definitely is a force to be reckoned with, and this should be an interesting matchup. I believe both of these heroes are really one of the key things is that both of those equipment is very important for defending against both of these heroes. So the reason for that is that Bravo naturally has his Dominate, so that means that you can't really defend with cards from your hand every time that you want to, in particular when he's coming in with his big crush attacks. And Dorinthea has the reprise keyword on a lot of her attack reactions, and that one basically means that if you have blocked with a card from hand that turn, these cards get stronger that she uses. So you kind of want to avoid blocking with cards from hand. And so that means what we will see is that on both sides, the amount of armor that they have on their equipment is going to be very relevant, because there's going to be a bunch of critical turns where you do want to avoid blocking from your hand, or in the case of Bravo, you don't even have the option to do so. So we see Dorinthea is on the play here. She started off with just a Dawnblade swing. It was blocked with one card from hand, which is a very risky thing to do against Dorinthea, because if she has some attack reactions, you can come over that easily. However, Bravo usually plays a lot of defense reactions as well, so maybe he was ready to defend himself should Dorinthea have some tricks up her sleeve. However, nothing of the sort happened. The Dorinthea player was happy to just go ahead and play out a sigil, gain some life, so have like a really good first turn in that way. Because usually, as we all know in this game, on your first turn, if you're on the play, it is very hard to really pressure your opponent, since he has the option to just throw his hand at whatever you're doing, and just draws back up on his turn or his or her turn. So you kind of want to do things on your first turn that do advance, that do give you like an advantage. So obviously you want to put something in arsenal, and then if you have something like a sigil, that's obviously a great thing you can do, or maybe like an energy potion or something of the sort. So what we see here from the Bravo player, as I said before, Bravo is kind of like a defensive hero, so he does like to play defense reactions, and he also likes to play these kind of cards, the Blessing of Deliverance, that allow him to gain some life, and really kind of take on a more defensive stance, swing at you with the hammer a bunch of times, and really kind of set up those big turns where he has like a very strong and huge attack with Dominate lined up, or maybe a pommel to really kind of like punish you on that way, and kind of like swing in 2 or 3 times over the course of a game with like a big attack, and other than that just kind of play the block, gain some life, and swing with the weapon game, and that can also lead to the opponent just bleeding out on cards, and not being able to have like a library at the end of the game anymore. So we see there was a bunch of cards pitched for the blessings. There was a bunch of cards drawn for that as well. So that's why this is possible. We see 6 cards being sort of used here, but that's all well and good. And he decides to now swing in with the hammer. So since there's 2 or more cards with 3 or more cost in the pitch zone, the Anathos is coming in for 6, and the Dorinthea player says, that's fine, I took some life on my first turn, I'm just going to take this, and now I'm going to do what Dorinthea likes to do best, and that is really put on the pressure and really start to threaten the hand of the other player, right? However, he decides he doesn't really like the hand that he has right now. So personally, I think there might have been a better idea to do this on your opponent's turn when he is attacking, so that way you can kind of like choose whether he chose not to block, right? But like maybe if you shuffle some cards back in, draw something up, and your hand is just kind of not really there, or maybe you notice, well, I can do what I want to do with like 3 cards already. Maybe you do want to use one of your cards to block there. So maybe this was not the best timing to use the head, but either way, he does choose to use it here. Shuffles 2 cards in and looking for his power cards, and those power cards being, you know, the Steelblade Supremacies, of course, or maybe he was looking for some way to give go again, although I believe he already has a various Warrior's Veiler in hand, or maybe he was just looking for resources here. That might be the case. We see he kept 2 red cards in hand. He ended up drawing 2 red cards, so maybe he was just kind of like starved on resources here. Alright, so he's pitching a route, one of the scariest attack reactions that Dorinthea has access to, and he's coming in with a red Warrior's Veiler. So this means that the Dawnblade will have go again, which means that there's a good chance that the kind of common wisdom is, if the Dawnblade has go again, you really want to block very, very hard in order to avoid that the ability to come in with it twice, and then that will threaten to gain counters, which is obviously once the Dawnblade reaches like 2 or 3 counters, well, actually even 1 counter already, it's very hard to kind of stop this snowball from just taking over the game. So this is a 6-point attack. It has go again, and critically, if he manages to do some damage here, he will be able to swing with the Dawnblade again due to the Dorinthea hero ability, and that of course is not something that you want to see here. So Bravo decides to just block with 6, again kind of like a risky thing, because as we know, Dorinthea has access to a lot of attack reactions, and we see one right here, an Iron Song response, and again, so this is one of those cards. He used cards from his hand to block, and that means the reprise effect is active, and that means this actually gives +3 to the Dawnblade swing. However, the good news is, since the Dorinthea player didn't have any more pitch, he is not able to swing again with the Dawnblade. So in that sense, it was maybe not the worst block, but you could think of him like maybe pitching something that's for 2 or something, and then maybe he has something in arsenal to come over, and then you're swinging twice. So a bit risky there, but it worked out fairly well for him. I mean, he took 3 damage, but not too big of a deal. He's gonna gain some life now. So unfortunately, he's a little unlucky with his flips here. He only sees 2 cards that fit the requirement to gain life, and since one of his blessings is a blue one, that one only sees the top card, and the top card was not one that gains him life, so he doesn't gain any life from the blue blessing, and he only gains 2 life each from the red blessing. However, still 4 points of life gained, not too bad. And now since he had to block last turn, he's going to look to set up for the next turn and just swing with the hammer. He does the classic thing where you pitch to your chest to create a seismic surge token, so that prepares you for your next turn, and also it allows you to pitch a second card into your to pitch a second card, and that makes it the hammer come in for more damage. So there's 2 cards in his pitch zone now, and usually almost all cards of Bravo fit the requirement of costing 3 or more. So this is a 6-point swing with the hammer. And that's kind of like the thing that Bravo really likes to do, do some blocking and do some attacking. So we see Dorinthea says, I don't want to keep taking this hammer swing, however I do need to keep some cards in my hand, so I'm going to start using my equipment already here. I don't personally like this play all that much, because the hammer is just presenting damage. It is not presenting a crush effect. And again, we have to keep in mind that the really scary thing about Bravo is his ability to give dominate to his big attacks. And if you end up not having your equipment against those critical dominate attacks, you might see yourself being hit with a crippling crush with crush effect active, meaning that you do have to discard a bunch of cards as well. So I feel like in against the Bravo player, you should really save your equipment for those attacks when it is really necessary. However, he just says, I want to I want to keep my life total as high as possible. I'm going to use my equipment, and now he says, okay, I've got a hit and run. Oh, and I've got a Steel Blade Supremacy. And so this means that the next weapon attack is going to be very scary indeed. You will really, and it already has go again as well from the hit and run. So I would expect the Bravo player to go all in on the blocks here, right? If you have to absolutely block this. If this hits, you have an additional swing with the weapon. He has the resources to pay for it. We already know that. He has the go again to do it. And he's going to draw a card from the Steel Blade Supremacy. And then the second swing is going to threaten yet another, yet another attack and yet another draw. So really, really scary attack here. Only 5 points, but as we all know, that's quote unquote 5 points. So he has one resource floating, so that means the maximum plus he could give would be +4 if he has the Steel Blade, the other Dorinthea specialization to search up a card. So the question is, does he have the option to block 5 with equipment here? He does not. So he can block a maximum of 4 with equipment. So that means he has to defend from hand, and that means that, and also the one resource most likely represents a +3 with the one card in hand. So I believe you really want to throw a bunch of a bunch of defense in front of this. All right. So he says, I will defend with card and the tectonic plating. So this is just in the defense for 5. So 5 against 5. I am not the biggest fan of this block. So there's 2 reasons for this. First of all, the one resource that the Dorinthea and the one card she has floating, that represents most likely +3. And then also you are using your equipment and you're using a card from hand. So using a card from hand, that means the reprise effect is active, and you're also using your equipment. I think you should try and use your equipment in order to have the option not to use one of your cards from your hand, right? So if you block with just your equipment, that means reprise is not active, right? And that makes it so much worse for the Dorinthea player. However, defending with one card from hand, you reactivate reprise, and you're using your equipment without really since you're already activating reprise, you might as well defend with more cards from hand. However, we don't know. Maybe he has a very good turn lined up here, and it ends up working out for him as well. Dorinthea did not have any attack reaction here with the one resource floating, so I think he got a bit lucky there. But also, maybe Dorinthea did not really plan out the turn all that great, because if you don't have another attack reaction to use together with your Steel Blade Supremacy, that's kind of like, you expect that your opponent is going to block for 5 at least if you come in with Steel Blade Supremacy with go again. Like, he is going to block. There is no doubt about that. He cannot just let that through. And so if you don't have an attack reaction to play against or play around his block, then maybe that's not the best use of the Supremacy, which is really one of your power cards. So, however, we don't know. Maybe there's so he chooses to Dorinthea got to put a card in arsenal. So maybe he was just hoping for the Bravo player to overblock here and get some cards out of his hand that way, because he has a very big thing planned for next turn. So we will see how that plays out. But either way, right now we see the seismic search token is being activated. He also uses his tectonic plating to create another seismic search token, so that's what he spent the resource on. And then with the 2 remaining floating resources and the seismic search token that was from last turn, he's playing a Crush Confidence. This is just a blue attack. It's only coming in for 5. However, he did not use his Bravo to give a dominate, so we might see a pummel here. Does he have a pummel? We see, by the way, 4-point block, so this would mean no crush. Again, he's using equipment on a non-dominated attack. I'm not the biggest fan of this. However, if you're already kind of like going down that route, maybe really just putting having the highest life total that you can possibly have is what you want to do. Maybe maybe the Bravo player said, alright, it's not worth it to give this dominate because it's only a 4-point attack anyway, and it looks like he does not have the pommel. Okay, so both players kind of like getting away with something here. So Bravo did end up kind of floating a card in hand that he didn't use. Okay, so after all that's said and done, we're still, both players have a very high life total, and oh, that's what he had planned. Okay, so that's very interesting. So he had a Nourishing Emptiness from last turn, he put that into his arsenal. So however, he did keep two. Why did he keep those two cards then? Like, if you keep, if your plan is to just play the Nourishing Emptiness anyways, why do you block with your equipment and take a point of damage instead of just using an extra card from your hand, and then you still have one card left to put in your arsenal? I think maybe that was not the ideal play on the previous turn there. But you know, whatever it is, what it is. We've got now, I believe that's exactly the correct use for equipment, right? You're stopping a dominated attack. You're stopping in a very, very scary on-hit trigger. So that's a great shout there. Blocking for just blocking straight up for 6, and that you know, I think still Dorinthea can be happy with this turn of events. You know, he got some equipment out of the way and a card from hand. So yeah, that's just the power of Nourishing Emptiness. I really love that inclusion in the Dorinthea deck, I have to say. I think that's the deck where it fits best. You're just not running any attacks other than that. Because you don't need to, and it is just such a powerful effect, such a big threat, and yeah, just an overall like a great card. It blocks for 3 as well, so yeah. Okay, now because of the way that this went down, the Bravo player now has some cards to play with, right? He's got 3 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal, so maybe we can see a big attack here. So what's happening? Okay, so again, the same thing happens as before. He's going to create another Seismic Surge token with a Tectonic Plating. The other Seismic Surge that he had is going to activate, and then he's going to pitch. He has to pitch another card to come in with a Buckling Blow, and he's floating 2 resources. So that's a 6-point attack. So he's floating 2 resources, and he did not activate Bravo. So does that mean he has the pommel now? Maybe he had the pommel on the previous turn as well, and he kind of like chose not to use it because he was looking for a better kind of like moment for a better crush trigger. So maybe that's the one that he chooses to use right now, if he does have it. Of course, if he doesn't have it, then I believe that if there's no trick here, then I think just using the Bravo effect would probably be a good idea, just to push some damage. Although maybe he's thinking, I don't care really about the damage right now, I just kind of want to take some cards out of Dorinthea's hand just to have her pressure less. And it appears like he does not have anything else to do here. Okay, fair enough. So we've got 2 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal, and now we're going to use the Courage of Bladehold. Yes, that's one of very, very strong piece of equipment, and that means this could be a very scary attack, even though it's only a quote-unquote only 3 points. And he's going to swing with a Dawnblade for 3. Okay, so that's very suspicious. I believe that in general people say, well, if it's a naked Dawnblade, just don't block it. It doesn't have go again. Because if you do block it, then there's going to be evil things that could happen. Again, just the 1 block, I think that's very sketchy. I think you want to block, if you're going to block, you should block with a bunch of cards. Although maybe he, again, there's a good chance he does have a defense reaction hiding out in Arsenal or somewhere else for a long time. So this would be currently a 6 damage attack. Because of the, in part because of Reprise, right? So Overpower gains an additional 2 points of damage because a card from hand was used to defend. And this is also one of the reasons why putting defense reactions in Arsenal and using them from Arsenal is so good against Dorinthea. You can block her without using cards from hand, and that really makes it more difficult for her. Okay, we do have a defense reaction. We've got an unmovable. We would still be coming in for 1 point of damage here, and we've got the glint the Quicksilver. Okay, so and that's really the reason why you don't want to block with if you want to block, you want to block with a lot of cards, because like imagine he just doesn't block here, right? He has to use the glint. He doesn't get to draw a card, and now he doesn't. He's gonna run into problems paying for the overpower as well. So, although actually no, I guess I think he could still do it. So it's not that big of a deal. He probably just gets to put something in Arsenal. But yeah, either way, this worked out great for Dorinthea. He got to push some damage. He got to put a counter on his Dawnblade, and now every subsequent attack is going to be very scary. He even took cards from the hand of the Bravo player. But I think I would have liked to see maybe blocking with 2 cards from hand, or blocking with no cards from hand, and then if there's an attack reaction played, then you can maybe think about throwing in the defense reaction. But it is what it is. And we see an attack with the Anathos. This is just coming in for 4 because there's nothing else in the pitch zone. And then we have a card in Arsenal still. I believe it's still the same card as it was before. So he's got something there. And oh, now it's an Irisong Determination. Okay, so this is giving Dominate, and we saw he forced the equipment earlier with the Nourishing Emptiness, and that means now it's going to be very, very hard for Bravo to block this. And he has the Ironsong Determination, Steelblade Supremacy combo. That is very, very nasty. So he drew up basically the perfect thing. So he gained some tempo on the previous turn, and then he just drew into an amazing hand, right? This is a 7 power attack, I believe, with Dominate, and on hit draw a card. And he still has his Refraction Bolters to give it go again. So that is going to be very, very nasty. It is very likely that he gets to put another counter on the Dawnblade and push a whole lot of damage here. So I was a little fortunate in terms of like the way that he drew his cards, but maybe if we have some defense reaction, we have a defense reaction in Arsenal, we could see the Bravo player be able to stop this. So it is possible to get out of the situation. But the way that he has played so far, I believe he would have played a defense reaction from Arsenal earlier, so I think he doesn't have it. Alright, so he just takes it. Now, of course, he's using the Bolters, and now he gets to draw a card, and he's coming in again for 7 points of damage. And if this hits, this would be yet another counter on the Dawnblade, and from that point it's going to be extremely difficult to come back. We see a block from hand, which is allowed. It doesn't really do anything because since you blocked from hand, the Ironsong response now gives it +3, so you're basically neither gaining nor losing any life. And we've got an Out for Blood, so this is threatening lethal right here, and we see a Sigil of Solace to stay alive, but we still get a draw trigger, so we get to put something in Arsenal. Yep, and that was a nasty turn. So he dealt a bunch of damage, he puts a second counter on the Dawnblade, and Bravo just has 2 cards to come back at him. We might just see Pitch Hammer once again. However, that being said, Dorinthea is at 12. She doesn't have any armor left herself either, so 2 hammer swings would actually represent lethal as well. So while it's definitely in favor of Dorinthea right now, this game is not over yet. There's definitely ways for Bravo to come back. We also saw he had a sigil played, so he's likely going to have a second one of those, so maybe he can gain some life later on, so maybe he's not stuck at 3, if you will. And I think it really is going to come down to whether he will be able to put a stop to the next Dawnblade attack, right? You need to have a way to get those counters off of it, right? So once you manage to stop the Dawnblade from entering, the counters will fall off, and then everything is a lot less threatening. So we see pitch, pitch, and a hammer. However, that means that most likely the card in his arsenal, which has been there for a long time, is not a defense reaction, and I believe that this might mean that it's going to be very difficult. Oh my god, yes, it's going to be very, very difficult indeed to stop this Dawnblade. So another Ironsong Determination. The hits just keep on coming. That is that is quite fortunate here. So this is a 6-point attack with Dominate. So on the face of it, without defense reactions, he is just dead. But let's see if he has something that he can do here. Okay, he's got another sigil, so that means he is not dead just yet, which is good. But he has to block this, of course, and he can only block with one card, which he's going to do. And there's most likely with 3 cards, 2 in hand, 1 in arsenal, there's would be shocked if there is no attack reaction here. I think we see an overpower hiding there. Yep, he's going to pitch another card just to play the overpower, so that's +6, and that's the end of the game. Yep, and he had a pommel in arsenal all this time. So he might have, so if he had the pommel in arsenal for that long a time, he might have just really tried to prepare for like a big crippling crush turn and wanted to use the pommel then, and did not quote unquote wasted on those attacks that he had earlier. I believe it might have been a good idea to try and just use the pommel earlier, and then just to free up your arsenal as well, because that means you get to put defense reactions into arsenal, and we see how crucial this can be against Dorinthea. Alright, anyways, thank you so much for watching. This has been round number 1, and we will come at you with the round 2 and 3 very shortly.